So that looks reasonable. What I'd like to do is I'd like to have the grass less deep, so only 2 deep. So I want to see what happens if it's only 1 deep. So we're just going to change the grass depth to 1. Recompile that. So that built that target. Now refresh. So that means now every once in a while you get a little bit of stone peeking through. A little bit too much stone. Maybe so. I would tend to agree. So what I would like to do is I would like to increase the noise scale which is this parameter here, so that I get a bigger effect area. No, I would like to decrease that so that the effects become larger, and then I would like to be affected by only the very biggest of them and a grass depth of 2. See what that does. So we have this noise scale which sort of determines the size of these features. And this is now 0.01, so that means it's very large features, but we're only going to sort of use the core of the feature, so that means there should only be holes every once in a while. I'm thinking. Not really seeing any stone outcroppings here, which was kind of what I was hoping for. Let's try and see if what happens if we really drastically reduce this. So we've gone really far down. Now we're getting these really, really deep holes of stone every once in a while. Which, I mean, if you fill this with lava, it would be kind of cool. But not really what I'm looking for right now. So what we want to do is that parameter does have an effect. Let's turn it up to about 0.5. Great. See what that does. Really tend to get these sort of half stone areas. Probably because I'm counting some of, or doing some of this in floating point. Well, yes, I will also be adding water at some point. I've been looking into how to, in a good way to actually render a transparent surface. So that's a thing I need to get working at some point. So yeah, that definitely there will be water at some point. About the oddness of the stone, I can sort of explain what's going on. It's the terrain generation that's not doing what I was expecting it to do. So I think what I want to do is I want to cut down on the feature size of the hole cutting, essentially. Let's see what happens if I, with that done. So now you get sort of these more like lumpy terrain with holes that cut down into stone and some places where it's sort of like along an edge. This, I think, would be sort of a cooler terrain if it wasn't dirt and grass and stone, but rather was like sand and sandstone. Then this would make a lot of sense. But I mean, the idea that stone is sort of poking through every once in a while doesn't really bother me that much. I kind of wanted that. And this seems to be a good-ish balance. What does chat say? What do you think? Kind of like it. I think I'm gonna save this one as a sort of desert stroke rough plains kind of thing. Now let's see if we can do something like maybe some. So let's try, actually, no, let's say care about the noise scale, but I want this thing to be really high, this thing to be rather low. Not a lot of variation. Offset of 0. And we're gonna have depth of 4 again. Thanks, Paul. 1.0f or 1.f. So we've sort of saved that for later use. Now we're going to go for, see if we can't do something that's kind of plainsy. No, it's kind of hard to say anything like that without stuff like trees in the place or anything like that. So this should be nice, flat, hilly. Well, not really hilly, but relatively flat with a little bit of up and down, but that's it. Let it generate in. See what we get. Takes a while for it to generate everything, which is another thing I need to look at some point, is moving terrain generation off of the rendering thread. Getting that done in the background on a web worker, but Emscripten and web workers are a little bit interesting, so I need to figure out what to do in that case. This looks nice and flat. Very flat indeed. So we are going to call that something like plains. Now let's see if we can do something that's a little bit more mountain-like. So we are going to do lots and lots of, actually not that much, but something like maybe 24 on the terrain scale. I want not a lot of features, but I want some features, maybe like that scale. And we'll go 0.5 here and see if that doesn't generate something that's a little bit mountainous. Let's see how that looks. So this doesn't really feel mountainous. I'm sort of more rolling hills, I'd say. But I like it. I like that one. We're going to call that rolling hills. So we're going to try and go a little bit more extreme on the up and down, and we're going to reduce the amount of grass here. Let's try that version. So another one. This one is pretty extreme, but it's still very rolling. I think what we want to do is we want to make it a little bit more jagged in some sense. So what I think we need to do here is we need to cut off the or modify the noise effect so we get a little bit more of that into it. Let's see how that affects it. Because this should mean that we use the 3D simplex more. Let's refresh and see how that looks. So yeah, a lot more stone, a lot more sheer cliff faces here. This definitely looks interesting. I like the look of this one as well. I really love how there's like this little bit sticking out here. What does chat think? This one worth saving? As for the bare stone in the low parts, I kind of like it for some reason. I kind of imagine that it's filled with water on some level as well. There might be, I mean, when we get a little bit further, we're going to be tweaking the terrain generation right now because it's very, very crude. Or some more, because right now it's very crude. It's just two simplex functions. I think we're going to call that mountainous. What can I not spell? Typo, change to mountainous. So, any other kind of terrains we kind of want to generate? Any ideas from chat? And I'm listening. Do the completely flat version. Islands would kind of require water, and I don't do water yet. I mean, I can fake it, of course. Flat world! Very, very flat world. Regan, as far as water is concerned, the problem is that I really, really don't want to sort my scene from front to back. So I'm looking into doing depth or order independent blending as well, which turns out to be interesting to say the least. And it really, it's doable. But if I also want to do stuff like reflections, it becomes really, really, really interesting / difficult. Yep, you're only hearing excuses because that's all I have at this point. And because I'm not going to sit here all night doing water. Need to get some sleep at some point as well. So something a little bit islandy. Or riverbeds. Riverbeds are a little bit nasty as well because I haven't figured out how to do sort of like um sort of linear terrains like riverbeds or ravines or stuff like that yet. My plan is that my idea is at least to sort of generate a base terrain and then carve them out of that afterwards, probably by sort of doing some weird stretching of a noise function, but I have yet to figure out how that will work. For now, I want to see what I can sort of get out of this really, really simple, primitive little terrain generation where we just do 2 noise functions and a little bit of parameters on it. And I'm thinking something like islands is essentially something like the mountainous or rolling hills, and then just add water on top of that to some level, and then you're done. Well, I think that this is the point where I'm gonna leave you for tonight. Then next week, I'm not gonna be home on Saturday, so there won't be a stream, but I'm hoping to do a stream in 14 days where we'll continue. As usual, I have no plan yet for what we're going to be doing that episode, but it will have something to do with this project. It will probably have something to do with terrain generation, would be my guess at this point. That, or if I find out some other neat thing I want to do, then we'll be doing that instead. I don't know. But yeah, I want to thank you all for turning out, and I hope to see you next time.